Well, welcome, Jacqueline. How are you today?
I'm good, Lisa. How are you doing?
Excellent.
Good to be here again.
Yes, we're here. Okay, so Facebook Lives don't like us, but that's okay. And we've had the dreaded lurgy and all sorts of things going on in the background, but we're committed to this education series. And today we're going to be talking about detoxification and cleansing. So, Jacqueline, what can you tell us about ghee and detoxification and cleansing?
Excellent. Well, ghee has been used for thousands and thousands of years as a Vedic cleanser, a detoxifier. So, and again, modern science is catching up, which is wonderful.
Yes.
But I think we'd all agree that the environment that we live in is steeped in chemicals these days. So especially in the last 100 years, that has just risen exponentially, and it's really hard for our bodies to cope with the amount of toxins that we have in our environment and that come into our bodies as well. So unfortunately, we can't avoid all of them, but we can enhance our body's way of detoxifying them, and that's where ghee comes in. So a lot of these toxins are lipophilic, lipo meaning fat and philic meaning loving. So they love the fat. They're fat soluble toxins in our body. So I mean,
that's one way of making the toxin sounds lovely.
A little bit more attractive, but they're not really, because
no.
they accumulate in our body, and they accumulate mostly in our fat tissue. And interesting, that's where we tend to store a lot of emotions in our body as well, in our fat tissue. But these lipophilic toxins, they have a very long half-life. So it takes the body a really long time to break them down, and they sit in the fat tissues of our body, whether that's in the actual fat in our body or in our brain tissue. And, you know, so many studies have shown how they do affect our hormone balance, our nervous system, our brain functioning, our cognitive functioning, our blood sugar balance. So they really can play havoc with our health. So it's important.
Why, as a nation, well, as a global, we, just because of toxicity, we're kind of, you know, maybe 5-10 kilos heavier on average than we were, say, 100 years ago, because our body is trying to deal with all these toxins?
Yeah, I think it has something to do with it, definitely, because it affects our metabolism. Having these toxins in our system, it puts the liver under a great load, and the liver's, you know, got 500 plus functions. It's an amazing organ. But if it's having to constantly deal with mopping up toxins, then it's not able to support hormone breakdown and recycling and removal, or digestive function, or, you know, so many of the other, you know, methylation chain functions that the liver is so important as a part of. Yeah, so I agree, that's, you know, it's a part of it. So ghee is a collating agent, you could say.
And that's spelled CH, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. CHEL.
Yeah, okay.
So it has this ability to, you know, go deep into our tissues, which you've talked about before, how it can just slide in through the cell membrane and really, you know, lubricate, but also break down these toxins. And so the way Ayurveda has used ghee, you know, for thousands of years, is to support this process of getting into our cells, of where these toxins reside, helping them to, you know, soften, break down to a form that can come back into our bloodstream. Otherwise, they're kind of stuck in the cells. But the ghee can, you know, it lubricates and it breaks down, it collates these, not collate, but chelate, these toxins, and they can come back into our bloodstream, and then they can be processed and eliminated out of the body. So it's called a lipo-mediated detoxification pathway.
Okay, so let's just dumb that down, though. That sounds very
lipid, like fat. Yeah. Mediated, as in governed by the fat.
Yeah.
Detoxification pathway. So that's
it's a ghee pathway, isn't it?
It's a ghee pathway. That's right.
Yeah,
because ghee has that subtle ability of going deep into our tissues.
Help them cross over.
Yeah, yeah. So ghee helps to draw it back. Helps our liver well, on another sort of angle, ghee is one of the best oils for our liver to help with all of its functioning, including digestion. And then to again bring another angle in, so yes, it can help to soften and lubricate and move the toxins in our body and help break them down. But another thing we've talked about in the past, Lisa, is how good ghee is with inflammation. And so simply having ghee in our diet, as opposed to other oils, soothes the nervous system, I meant to say the digestive system. It certainly soothes and nourishes the nervous system too, but it really soothes the digestive system so that your digestion works better anyway. So yeah, even without thinking about, major toxins that we've accumulated over a lifetime and that have settled into our tissues. So yes, ghee can be used on one level to help, break them down and pull them out. But on the everyday level, just having ghee in our diets means our digestion works better. Things are lubricated more. Elimination works better. So we're not getting more constipated or for some, if there's a lot of irritation and inflammation, it creates loose stool, which in itself, you're thinking, well, at least I'm getting stuff out, but it's still impairing digestion, which means we accumulate toxins. So on that general level, ghee's good because it helps digestion. And if digestion's working well, we're not accumulating from every meal.
We're eliminating.
Yeah.
So we're eliminating, but also which we haven't eliminated perhaps in the past that's stored, we can move that out, because a lot of inflammation's to do with the build up in the cells. Inflammation is, right?
Yes, build up of toxins in the body, which are kind of irritants. They're foreign bodies, so your body's kind of fighting against them. They create inflammation in the body. But our body sort of put that in the cell to protect us, I'm guessing.
Kind of. It's like mechanism. It sort of just wraps it up in the fat.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, I'm stored in here. So, Jacqueline, talk more about this cleansing and detoxification, because for me it doesn't make sense. But I know Ayurvedically, when they break it all down, it's probably going to make really good sense. But it's a question that I kind of ask myself, and I'm sure that other ghee lovers will be asking themselves as well. So ghee's a fat. And when we talk about the liver, often, that's breaking down fats, right? The bile and the liver. So how does the liver cope with the ghee? How does the ghee help the liver?
Well, in a sense, I mean, sometimes I don't come at it from a very scientific point of view. I'm really interested in science, but it's, it's not my forte, I guess. But one thing I do know is that if we go to a very low fat diet, the gallbladder can get really sluggish, because the gallbladder is designed to emulsify fats. So if there aren't enough fats in our diet, good quality fats like ghee, then the gallbladder kind of just gets a bit sleepy or a bit dried out. And it's like, well, I don't need to create, the bile that emulsifies and breaks down the fat. So that in itself can mean that the bile gets sluggish.
Okay, so that's like if we park our car in the car park and we go away on holidays and we're not starting it every day, the battery kind of dies eventually, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even though we're not using it.
So we want to use it. We want to, put good one, like using that analogy, we want good quality fuel to go into the car. But we also, do want it to turn over regularly. So when there's, less fat in the diet, that can happen, that the gallbladder just gets a bit sluggish. And when the gallbladder gets sluggish, it impacts liver function as well. Those two work so closely together. With the liver itself, there's two ways that we can go. We can have really poor quality fats in our diet, which make a fatty liver. And that's not just through poor quality fats, excess sugars, things that just overload the liver and build up. Or the liver can become very, sort of a bit dried out and astringent, like tightened, and it doesn't function well in that scenario either. So it's a happy balance of it not becoming too fatty and heavy and not becoming too dried out or overheated is another thing that can happen with the liver. And the ghee is a good cooling, nourishing oil that, to put it simply, the liver just enjoys. It finds it easy to manage. It supports liver function, whereas some other fats, and certainly, you know, hydrogenated fats, trans fats, the liver has a much harder time using them to turn into good cholesterol, to turn into what the body needs, what our brain needs, what our nervous system needs.
Okay, so tell me, if I wanted to focus on some cleanse or detoxification, starting to, so all things assuming that I'm eating right and all the rest of it, so I'm not building up these toxins except for, say, what I get in my everyday, you know, walking out my front door, because that's just the nature of the world we live in. What I've heard something about like ghee and hot water in the morning, or can you tell me more about that? Because I've been telling people like what I've heard, but I'd love to hear it from the horse's mouth.
So that's one method of supporting the body in utilizing ghee both for energy, for like slow release burn of, you know, using fat for energy, which does, you know, break down the fat tissue, which releases the toxins as well. So you don't want to do that too fast and hard, because it can kick us into a healing crisis of feeling really awful because we're pulling lots back into the system that the system then has to deal with. But having, you know, half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of ghee in hot water first thing in the morning, for most people, is a really supportive way to kick the body into using the ghee in that way and breaking down fat as energy.
That's boiling water?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be absolutely boiling, but enough to warm the ghee and so for it to be warm to hot as you're drinking it. I mean, you don't want to burn yourself, but warm to medium, you know, hot is good.
Okay, and is that on an empty stomach?
Definitely on an empty stomach, and allow at least half an hour, or wait until you feel hungry, but minimum half an hour before eating, after having the ghee first thing in the morning.
Okay, and what's that going to do?
So what that does is kicks the body into fat metabolism. And when we're in fat metabolism, it's helping to break down the fat, what's in the fat tissues, use that for fuel. And then that itself brings things back into the bloodstream, the toxins that might be held into our, you know, fat tissues, brings it back into the bloodstream for then the liver to deal with.
Okay, so it kicks us into ketosis.
Yeah.
Without doing like all these massive long fasts and that type of thing. When you hear about ketosis, you know, these people doing keto diets are like, oh, I have to be 3 or 4 days before you get.
Well, it often takes a few days for it to kick in. So you might not notice results on the first day, on the second day, third day, but certainly it does create a more stable blood sugar when doing it, you know, for at least 3 days. It can take that time. And it's still important to be eating good quality food and diet with good quality fats in it to help maintain that process. But that's one simple way of bringing ghee into your diet on the everyday to, you know, help support detoxification and using fat as fuel for stabilizing blood sugars as well.
Okay, which it stabilizes hormones as well, does it? That
indirectly, I would say yes.
All right.
There's a lot more that's a big conversation.
All right, we'll do that another day. I think we've got that lined up.
Yeah.
But you were going to say that was one way. What's the second way?
There's another way which I'd recommend working with practitioner to make sure it's suitable for the individual, but that is using ghee in a deeper cleanse, which can be done where this is a traditional way of increasing the ghee intake over minimum 4 days and maximum 7 to 8 days, depending on the individual, where you take 2 teaspoons of ghee first thing in the morning on the first morning, and then 4 teaspoons of ghee the next morning, and then 6, and then 8, and then 10. So you actually, it can be a lot, you know. But
and what happens? How do you feel?
Like saturating the body with ghee, and often the body knows when it's like that's enough. I mean,
because what, you gag?
You can actually, you can. It's like the body just goes, no, enough. Or you might start to feel a bit nauseous after having it, but there's ways of taking it that help it to go down. And it's surprisingly, I mean, with beautiful quality ghee such as yours, it goes down really well. Or you can blend it with water and some soaked raisins, and it emulsifies in a warm water.
Oh, that sounds right, because raisins are slightly sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and if they're soaked, they're beautiful and plump, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're not dry.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's a traditional way, and that's not just done lightly. That's done where for at least a week beforehand, you start to simplify the diet, and you can still have fat in your diet, and good quality fat like ghee, but you start to let go of sugars, let go of all the other things that your body's having to process all the time. So you come to a very plant-based diet.
Lighten the load.
Lighten the load. So let go of the things that are overstimulating, like alcohol and coffee, like excess sugar, and even lightening so that the body's digestive function, the agni, can strengthen over that week before even going into the actual deeper ghee cleanse. So that's something that we don't always do, but it's something that's an option for people in my seasonal detoxes that happen every autumn and spring.
Okay.
But it needs to be led up to, and then this process, when you actually go into the deeper ghee cleanse, you do not eat any fat in the day. So that is the only fat intake. No nuts, no seeds, no avocados, but it's the ghee provides that fat. And then through the rest of the day, the body is, processing that fat, releasing those toxins back into the bloodstream, and the liver, again, being supported through the ghee and through not overloading it. And often an individual might need extra liver support through that time as well. So again, that's
definitely under a medical professional.
Under a medical professional, that's right. And then again, easing out of it. So that's a very traditional way of using ghee, as a deep ghee cleanse. But as we've mentioned already, we can use ghee quite simply every day, having that teaspoon, half a teaspoon.
Okay, and you mentioned the seasons as well just then. So would this half a teaspoon something we can do at any time during the year, or really should we only do it leading into like the cooler months because ghee is so warming, but it's cooling as well, isn't it?
Yeah, ghee is neutral. It pacifies pitta, it nourishes vata, so it pacifies excess fire energy, it nourishes the cold, windy energy. It's not too heavy for the earthy energy. The signs that you're perhaps having excess ghee is if you feel nauseous after taking it, or if you're getting ghee like oil in your bowel movements, so you can actually see that. So that's another way when you're doing that deeper ghee cleanse where you're having it in incremental stages. That's another sign of it being.
So you're looking at the stool and you're seeing oil on the water of the toilet.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's the traditional.
Ayurveda is really big on poo, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's so fascinating, and it's fascinated by it. It tells us so much about our digestion. So, but that's the ways that we can use ghee to help detoxify, to chelate and bring these toxins back into our system for our liver to support. And thankfully, ghee is, for most people, a very supportive fat for our liver as well. So over time, it helps the liver to do all the processes it needs to do, helps our digestion to function, helps our elimination to function well through simple lubrication and through supporting good digestion. So when there's good digestion,
this
ideally
fatty liver thing, a lot of people have got a fatty liver, right? That's a very common thing. So ghee's, it's okay to do this half a teaspoon to a teaspoon every morning with hot water if you've got.
I've checked with the individual doctor.
Yeah. By the way, we're not health.
Yeah.
Jackets. I'm not. I just make ghee. With lots of love.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that it's okay for absolutely everyone, but for most people. So again, it's something to check with.
Check with your health professional. Yeah. Awesome. Well, that is super interesting.
And look, for my experience, there was a time when I had coconut oil more than ghee, just as an experiment about 8 years ago. And that was the time I got more unbalanced and unwell than pretty much any other time of my life. Sure, there were other factors, but as soon as I was back on the ghee, it's just like, oh, that feels so much better.
Yeah, it's really, you know, as I don't just everyday Australians, you know, it's really tricky to get our head around this whole idea that fat is because we've been so brainwashed, right? And then we start that fat is bad for us, right? And then we go, oh no, it's okay to have good fats. And then when you look at ghee, it's yellow, right? It looks like a heavy fat, when really we should be thinking of it as an avocado we can cook with.
I reckon it's even lighter than avocado in terms of digestion. I mean, it's just such golden goodness, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's, so then to hear that, oh wow, you know, you can have it to cleanse, when you think that fat, we get told that, you know, fat clogs our arteries, you know, it's sticky and all of that type of thing, whereas ghee is just like this whole other animal.
It
I
is
don't
really
know. You know, people say, is it dairy? And I've been sitting on that question, because it starts off dairy, but it does transform. And we're taking everything out, all those milk solids, sugars, everything gets taken out, including the water. And the fatty acid chains have transformed, they're now a different shape. So technically, it's kind of not butter anymore. It's not dairy. It is a whole new being, but technically you can't say that it's not dairy because it's made from butter, right?
But it's such an amazing alchemical process that truly transforms this substance that, you know, has already been to become the dairy product of butter, gone through many levels of transformation, from the grass, the cow, to the grass, milk, to the butter, to the, you know, there's so many steps of purifying and refining, you know, to get it to that point of ghee. And then that last cooking into the ghee itself is that last, you know, point of, you know, injecting it, or not injecting, but infusing it with that, you know, the fire of Agni and the love of the producer to, you know, purify it and refine it to this amazingly subtle, nourishing substance. It's, you know, it's really nothing like it.
That's something that I'm learning as well. As I talk to people of Indian heritage, they always talk about when they taste it, oh, it tastes so pure.
Yeah,
right? They don't say the taste, like for us, we say, oh, it tastes a little bit butterscotchy, or it tastes like the bottom of the cornflake crackle, or you know, all of these different kind of descriptors that I get from people. When some people say, oh, it's a bit nutty, you know, that type of thing. But mainly when people that have had ghee, like in their culture, one of the things they always say is, oh, it tastes so pure. So it's really interesting that they can pick up on that, because they're connoisseurs just from having it at such a young age, right? That they can pick up on that micro particle feeling on their tongue and their mouth of that pureness. It's really interesting.
That's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, was there anything else you wanted? We've kind of hit our half an hour. We didn't want to go over that really. Was there anything else that you felt we needed to cover when it comes to?
No, I think we've covered, you know, that, you know, ghee can be used for deep cleansing, but simply use in our daily life supports our digestion, which means we're not accumulating. Because I'll just say this, that when our digestion's not working well, and really look at our supermarket shelves, our chemist shelves, they're full of Pepto-Bismol for digestion, because there's constipation, there's diarrhea, there's hyperacidity, there's pain, there's gurgling, there's too much wind, there's, you know, and I see this every day in my clinic as well. So people struggle with their digestion. And, you know, on an individual level, when digestion's not working well, we're not digesting life well. So we need our central digestive fire, our Agni, our digestive capacity to be functioning well. And then everything else becomes more easeful, if that's a word. And we're able to digest life. So there's that smoothness in our life as well. But when our digestion's not working well, whether it's excess gas or excess acidity or constipation or, any aspect of it, when we're not digesting well, we create what's called AMA, AMA, which from an Ayurvedic perspective simply means poorly digested food residue, sludge. And most of that.
And for people listening, if you want to know if you've got AMA, stick your tongue out, get up in the morning and stick your tongue out and look at your tongue. And if it's all white, that's AMA.
If it's coated, that's excess. It's part of this AMA that, ideally we eliminate most of it, but some of it will circulate, especially if our elimination is not working well, some of it will circulate into our into our circulation. And it will find our weak spots, and that's different for everyone. A kapha guna, a weak spot, congenital, weakness, and it will set up camp there, and it will start to aggravate the tissues there. So for some people, that might be the liver, and it creates fatty liver. For others, it might be in the blood and create rashes on the skin. For others, it might sort of go upwards and create headaches. It's different for everyone how this AMA, these toxins in our system, affect our body. So we want our digestion to be harmonious and working well, so that we don't accumulate as many toxins, as much of this sticky, yucky AMA sludge in our system as possible. So Ghee helps that on a day-to-day level to support digestion, so we're not accumulating toxins, not making more of our own toxins, but it also helps us deal with those toxins that we just, are in our environment and can't avoid. So it's a win-win.
It all comes back to pooing. Making sure you poo well. And I would just like to say, from a very practical point of view, Ghee is great as a like removing your makeup, anything on your skin as well, just for cleansing and detoxifying.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, just a bit on a cotton wool bud, around your eyes, where you don't want it too stringy. Well, thank you, Jacqueline. I know that we've got more coming up in our education series. I can't remember what the next one is, so I need more Ghee for my brain.
Sorry, I can't remember either, but we'll get there.
But we'll get there, that's right. So I'll be popping this up. As always, I'm not a medical practitioner. Jack's an Ayurvedic practitioner, so when she talks about doing things under supervision, just take that to me and give her a call at Living Ayurveda is the name of Jack's business. She's very, very experienced. How did you quickly, two minutes, how did the cleanse go, the people that were going through this seasonal cleanse?
So that was in March this year. Amazing results. People were sleeping better, people lost like up to 6 kilos.
Wow.
And in
this
general,
is just from taking note of the season and that transition period and doing things that support your body during that transition, they're able to get those kind of results.
Yeah, because when we sort of get out of the way, we all live in ways that sometimes we make choices that are not right for our health, and that's just human nature, right? Ayurveda knew about this. It's called prajnaparada, crimes against wisdom. I love that word.
Crimes against wisdom.
So that the things we do when we know they're not really going to feel good tomorrow, but we all do them, right? So
that extra glass of wine.
Exactly, that extra glass of wine, the pushing on when we're already tired, the having that extra serve when we're already full, those things. So my conscious living program and detox is all about not just the food that we're eating, but how are we living in a way as well. So it's about coming back to simplifying for our digestion so that it can build its own strength, because our digestion is always moving towards balance. We've just got to get out of the way sometimes so it can strengthen. And then we can move into the deeper detoxes. And there's always a few pathways, so that not everyone chooses the deeper detox. Some people are simply on the simplifying and nourishing. Too much cleansing can be destabilizing for many people who are already very light or scattered or feeling fragile. So it's not for everyone, but that's why I offer options, because it's Ayurvedic. It's got to be individual.
I love that it's individual.
Yeah,
that's the best thing about it. And I love that it comes back to that natural wisdom.
Yes,
Yeah.
awakening your own natural wisdom that you have already.
Yeah, so it's like some people are saying, oh, I've been gorging on my ghee, and I'm like, go for it. Because if I just say, listen to your body, because I was like that when I first started too, but gradually your body just goes, yeah, that's enough. Yeah. And it's a bit like, I guess, now that I'm thinking about what we were talking about earlier, you saying, start with 1 teaspoon, then 2, then 4, then 6, and then 8 under supervision, of course, but you get to that point where your body just goes, no, that's enough.
That's it.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right, well, stay warm with the blowy winter out there. And
I love it.
We'll see. I think it's around the 26th, 28th of June this month. Yeah, we've got our next one.
We'll
so
see you all again soon.
Yes, see your Facebook people. Love you guts. Bye.